Hello, myself Sunil R Nair, and here basically we are discussing about the GDP basically. That is the growth development basically. In this basically till now basically we have discussed lots of things basically. We have discussed that basically the how the human cloning industries basically are connected, how the human souls basically are connected, how that 5 crore people basically are also connected with the growth development. Because growth development are basically designed according to that only basically. Designed according to, so basically the growth development person basically whoever basically might be, lots of people says that basically it's a finance minister, but mostly basically finance minister can't handle this also. He can basically handle the finance thing basically, but this basically contains lots of things basically. So that basically the certain level of data basically are given by the certain level of groups basically. So only basically one person basically can't handle this basically. So like this basically the each and every contribution basically are done, that this industry basically has to do this level, this industry basically can do that, this industry will do that, this industry has to do this basically. So like this basically each and every development part basically are decided, and then basically the contribution happens basically, that this city basically has to create, that area has to create, that state has to be create, that text box equal to 1000 city has to create. That's all the GDP of the software industry basically, you can say. Combo box equal to 1000 city has to create, then check box equal to 1000 city has to create. Like this basically the creation of the check box basically, you can say, creation of the text box, creation of the combo box. So this all basically the GDP of the text. One person told that basically what is GDP of text box here basically. This is GDP of text box here basically. The text box equal to 1000 cities, and 1000 city basically is getting little bit enhanced basically. Enhanced basically you can say little bit getting increase basically. That basically is the GDP basically. The GDP state is also there basically. GDP country is also basically there. So like this basically each and every area basically connect with the GDP. First basically it's connect with the country, then basically it connects to the states, then basically it connects to the cities, then slowly basically it connects to the each and every sectors, basically it connects, then basically it connects to the each and every industry basically, you can say, each and every sectors, each and every factories, each and every people basically connects here basically. So here basically like this the, you can say, one diagram is also basically required of the GDP basically, that basically the how the GDP basically connects to each and every basically, and that also basically the live diagram basically, you can say. For example, one train is moving, right? So what this train is moving basically, that basically the the railway department basically can easily able to say that, see that, right? This train is moving basically, and this train has reached to this area, so they can easily able to see that, right? So like this basically the system basically is required in the GDP basically, that is must. Reason behind is the creation basically, and the creation basically connects to the human souls also basically, and the human souls basically creates by the set of groups basically that mostly basically might not be in the picture only basically, they might not be there, the department also basically might not be, nobody basically might be knowing that this type of department also basically exists. It might possible basically, who creates the human souls basically, that type of department also basically might not be exist basically. It might exist also basically, but not in front of the public basically. The nuclear power company exists, that is basically exist in front of the company. The power company exists, the energy company exists, this all company basically exist in front of the public basically. So like this basically the GDP in front of the public also, you can say that GDP in front of the government, GDP in front of the World Bank. Like this basically many types of GDP also might be containing basically. Reason basically might be something else basically, the reason might be very anything basically, that why the GDP basically it's like that. The GDP basically, few GDP, the GDP also basically might be like that basically. Human souls creation basically, basically that group basically don't know basically what is GDP everything, but they are contributing to the GDP only basically. So like this basically the one diagram basically might be required basically for the GDP contribution basically. So like this GDP software basically might required. GDP software basically 100% might be having, but GDP basically little bit change basically might required basically, and mostly basically this type of thing basically 100% might be existing only basically. So like this basically the each and every industry basically connects with the GDP department, each and every basically finance department, each and every banks basically, banks 100% connects now basically, because it's connecting to the currencies to currencies. So 100% basically banks connects, the stock exchange basically connects, the each and every basically the finance institute basically connects, finance industry basically connects. So each and every basically sectors connects to the GDP here, and like this basically the GDP says that basically that we are basically connecting to the each and every contributions basically. So like this basically by default basically the each and every GDP basically connects to the cities to cities, and like this basically the each and every basically sectors are also basically connected to areas basically also we can say. So like this basically 1% to that basically that GDP actually is connected with that area basically here. When the that GDP basically that work basically get over, then basically we can finish that GDP data basically. The reason is basically there some creation material basically has not came basically, so the things basically are like that also basically. So like this basically the things that basically all the basically common thing basically, because the software industry also basically they contains this whole thing basically. So then basically this GDP is basically before then the software industry basically. So this whole thing basically 100% basically might be connected, might be basically there, might not be basically 100% might be there basically. So like this basically the GDP says that basically the currency department basically are connected, each and every industry basically are connected, each and every sector basically of the world basically is connected with the GDP department basically. So like this basically each and every things basically are connected with the GDP department basically, and the currency department also basically. So like this basically each and every above points basically are connected with the GDP basically. So little bit more about basically GDP, and then basically little bit more about the power, that this all thing basically we have discussed long before basically, and satellites things also basically we have discussed long before basically. GDP also basically we have discussed basically long before basically, but that basically was no, that was also basically in deep depth basically, but human souls point was basically was not there basically. So here basically I added human souls point also basically. Like this basically lots of group basically says that basically that GDP contribution here basically contains is basically the malls basically are contributing to the GDP. Yes, 100% malls basically are also contributing to the GDP, na? Because nowadays basically each and every human basically needs are created by the human bodies only basically. So human body basically contains what basically each and every items basically that basically are produced by the malls basically, not produced by they are basically selling the things basically. Produce is basically somebody else is producing. So like this basically things are also basically there here. So like this basically this also basically comes into the GDP part. So in next video basically we are going to see GDP and power light, and then basically what are the satellites are connected with the city, each and everything. Mostly things basically we have already discussed. Then also basically little bit things basically we are going to discuss, and in next video basically we are going to discuss basically this.